Hello class, so this will be my third time trying to make this video because my laptop wasn't working, so we're going to try it on my wife's computer and hopefully this will work perfect. So this week we're discussing nature and all its glory, and it was a journey for me this week from beginning to end. That journey encompassed reading Aldo Leopold's description, then going on to Columbus's letter, and then lastly the required reading that we purchased. Jumping right into it because I'm going to try and keep these videos a little shorter than I have in the past. First and foremost was the description of Aldo Leopold. And the reason that's important is because I went into this week a little apprehensive with the readings and the subject matter. But his excerpt at the end of the description definitely jump-started my ability to make connections and respect the topic this week. I apologize, I'm going to have to jump between this computer and that one because my laptop is kind of being messed up right now. So first and foremost, I want to talk about the last paragraph in the Leopold description, which goes... the outstanding scientific discovery of the 20th century is not television or radio, but rather the complexity of the land organism. Only those who know the most about it can appreciate how little we know about it. The last word in arrogance is the man who says of an animal or plant, "What good is it?" Skipping forward, to keep every cog and wheel is the first precaution of intelligent tinkering. So, basically, he's explaining that we can be as smart as we want to. We can evolve and create new technology as much as we want to. But if we forget that we are not the largest organism that the planet itself is, then we're doomed to be arrogant and fail. And and it's funny because when he talked about us talking about an animal or a plant and what good is it, I kind of laughed because I thought about it and I was like, okay, so when my dog, who I love, is watching me eat, she doesn't understand the importance of my opposable thumb to me. She doesn't understand what it plays. All she sees is me eating. So by the same token, on a grand scale, we may not understand every little plant or animal's involvement on this earth, but his point was there is one, and we're arrogant to think that there isn't, and more so to say that if there isn't one for us, then they're not important, or it is not important. So that definitely jump-started my brain for this week, and I could get behind his theories. So moving forward, the first prompt is in relation to Manifest Destiny. I have to admit that, I haven't done a whole lot of research or thinking about Manifest Destiny since like middle school, and my definition has been skewed over the years to the point where my most general definition of Manifest Destiny is to explore. I was like, yeah, we wanted to explore westward. That's what it was. That is not the case upon, reintroducing myself to it. It's, expanding westward, yes. It was growing our nation, but more so it was evolving our idealizations and society, and basically imposing our culture and society on the westward as we explore, building up, essentially. And where my original definition of exploration did tie into this week in a good way, the actual definition, in my opinion, does not. Because in a lot of times, the correlation between the two is as technology and society grows, nature is going to go down. Unfortunately, it is the nature of the beast that we seem to dwindle nature as we grow upon our society. That being said, the next piece I looked at was the letter from Columbus, which, even though I think it ties into Manifest Destiny because it's, showing this man that wanted to move, he wanted to learn more and grow. It more aligns with the second prompt, with his description of the Indians, which was, in my opinion, very raw and real. And at first glance, because of the terms that he uses, seems mean, or distasteful, but really under the surface, I think it's a compliment. So not a whole lot I'm gonna go over on this with you, but just one line especially. Even bits of broken hoops of wine casks they accepted, and gave in return what they had, like fools, and it seemed wrong to me. I forbade it, and I gave 1,000 goods and pretty things that I had to win their love, to induce them to become Christians, and the love and serve their highness and the whole Castellan nation. So he goes on. The important word that stuck out to me was fools, like fools. And I don't think that he meant that as in like fools, blah ha ha ha. No. I think what he was getting at was they did not follow the same doctrine as him. That he talks about how they were giving up gold for broken pieces of whatnots. And there's one word that he did not use, and I was quite glad, or at least I didn't say it, so if he did, please, I apologize. Heathens. Hate the word heathens. Because heathens implies, in my opinion, it strikes evil, almost. Even though it's like, oh, you heathen, like, almost like anarchy, but it does strike a little bit of, evil, just from the name, at least in my opinion. Whereas this, what I honestly think under the surface he's getting at is they were simple people. And to me, that aligns with my definition of Manifest Destiny, and more so shows that maybe at the surface, his description of these people may be off-putting, but underneath, it's actually a gem. These people did not have that social contract to where gold was so important that they needed to hoard it and try to get the most out of it. No, instead, they lived simple lives. They lived on the land. They lived for nature and to learn. They just wanted these little trinkets, whether broken or not. They wanted to be able to get down to the tactile level, touch it, and examine it, and everything else. They were willing to learn and communicate with Columbus and his people because it was something new. So they were not held by these straps of social contracts where it was like, oh, well, I need to be a little guarded because I need to make sure that I win in this deal. I need to make sure that I get all that I can out of this deal. They were simple, and I think that is in a good way. So that was the next stop on this week's journey, and I gotta admit, I felt that the descriptions were well put. Even with the terms used, I think that it shows that the Indians, even though living a simple life, had a lot to offer. And this correlates with something from Abby that I'll discuss next, and I'll make sure to let you know how it ties together. So moving forward, now we talk about all of the chapters we read in this, which was daunting at first. But first what do I think he was trying to accomplish? I think what he was trying to accomplish was, as cliche as it sounds, getting back to nature. But not in the sense of like, oh, society's evil. No, in a sense of, I think as a man or as a person, he felt like he needed to connect. And, whether this happened once or a bunch, given, the description of him, it was his life, but he needed to connect. So, on a literary level, he starts this book amazingly. First line, this is the most beautiful place on earth. Boom, right there, first line. What does that tell me? That means every page after that, most beautiful place on earth. He describes, he starts with a bomb and then he kind of hones it in, talking about like, look, I get everybody has their own beautiful place on earth, but this is his book, and in his book, he's talking about the most beautiful place on earth. Powerful words, very powerful opening, and I can respect that. And it just sets the tone for the rest of the book. Now, if we skip ahead to page 13, a good description is used. I don't know if he meant it to be used as a metaphor as well, but it can be, and I kind of like it. So there's another disadvantage to the use of the flashlight. Like many other mechanical gadgets, it tends to separate a man from the world around him. If I switch it on, my eyes adapt to it, and I can see only the small pool of light which it makes in front of me. I am isolated. Leaving the flashlight in my pocket where it belongs, I remain part of the environment I walk through, and my vision, though limited, has no sharp or definite boundary. Take out flashlight, and that applies to any piece of technology. Basically, what he's getting at is technology is giving tunnel vision. We're forgetting about the relationship and being able to see everything just because we want a clear-cut path. We want to be able to see that right in front of us 100%. And because of that, we've given up seeing everything else instead of taking in the big picture. Now, I do think it's important to mention that this sentence where he says, leaving the flashlight in my pocket where it belongs, he doesn't say discard the flashlight. He doesn't say that the flashlight is evil or unnecessary. He says leave it in my pocket, which kind of tells me that what he's getting at is we've grown to a world where it's 99% technology, 1% nature, and what he's saying is let's switch that. Let's do 99% nature, 1% technology. It's important. I get that we're humans, we grow, we adapt, but should we adapt so far that the biggest thing and what we live on is now only 1% of our lives? Very powerful. He goes on to explain this fact even more by getting back to his trailer, wants to write a letter to himself, and instead of using candlelight, he starts up his generator. And when he gets back in the trailer, he realizes that by doing so, he's now disconnected himself. Even though he's in this tiny trailer, he's by himself, surrounded by nature, turning on that generator. The sound has now drowned out any sort of sound from nature, and the light has blinded him to everything else outside of the trailer. And that's powerful. It shows that, something as simple as, I don't want to use candlelight, I'd rather use this generator. It has isolated him. Even though he's in the middle of nature, isolated him. Powerful. Moving forward to page 19, we get into his relationship with animals and discussing this snake that he brings into the trailer to keep as a pet. And I noticed that when he gets it and gets the snake, brings it inside, he battles himself whether or not to feed it, and he decides not to. And to me, even though he never says it, I want to believe that the reason he did that is because having a pet wasn't bad, but disconnecting that pet from nature was. He didn't want to become an enabler to that pet. He wanted that pet to still be its own right in nature, and thus hunting the mice that were inside. And then he moves forward to talk about how he notices two snakes in the middle of what is either like a mating ritual or something to that effect. And he gets curious, gets on his belly, crawls, he wants to go check it out. And when he is noticed and they come charging at him, takes him a moment to realize he might be in danger, gets up on his knees, startles the snakes, they go away. And he contemplates following them, but doesn't. And he makes this grand realization that why is it okay for him to follow them? Why was it okay for him to look on them to begin with? Human curiosity should not be the end all to what is okay in relation to animals, is pretty much what he's getting at. They have just as much right to privacy as to humans. And that is big, that's a big correlation to make, that in a world where, humans are top dog, no pun intended, and even though we love animals, we love our pets, they still are our pets, not our equals. And I think his whole monologue was pretty much explaining that in his eyes they should be treated as equals. They deserve all the same rights that we as humans get. Because how are we any different? We're all just inhabitants of this earth. Um, Now, moving on to page 60, we get to, and this is on a literary level and a personal level, one of my least favorite parts of this book, and it's for the chapter Rocks. And his opening line is, "The very names are lovely." And then he goes to, listing all these different types of materials. I did not like it because this whole book has been about nature and its beauty and why it's important and that kind of thing, and that the human relation or the human importance is nothing when compared to nature. Well, right there, he said it was in that first line. Who created all those names? Man, they're signifiers. We are obsessed with labels. We have to be able to label everything. It's a comfort thing. We've all learned that in one class or another, that we're the only animal, however you want to look at it, that is obsessed with putting a label on everything. Everything must have a name. So for him to start a paragraph in this type of book where he says, well, even the names are beautiful. Nature didn't give them those names. Nature didn't say, hey, that's going to be an obsidian. No, that came from man. And the whole point of your journey was to say that man does not get to dictate. So that kind of took me out of the experience. I didn't really, I thought it was meant to be artsy, but really it just foiled the end game. Besides point, I just thought it would be something to mention. Lastly, I want to talk about in the chapter about the manhunt, page 209, 213. This kind of correlates to my other members of the class who have mentioned, Abby kind of has this stance where it's looking down on tourists and others. And I think that it's important to mention here that in this chapter, you get one line where it's like, oh, by the way, my brother's here. And that kind of shows you how important it is that this book is all about nature. Him and nature, but nature predominantly, to the fact that all we get is a line, oh, my brother's here. So I don't think he really means to put down all of humanity. I think he means to pick up nature. But the last thing I want to mention is when they find the dead body of the old man, and he understands that the old man may not have seen it the same way on his deathbed, but he can't help but feel like that was the perfect way to go, with open blue skies, wrapped in nature, laying on his back, the whole nine. And that's important to me for this book because it shows that his ideals on nature are unwavering. What could have happened is he could have found that dead body and realized this man went without water. He swelled up, dead, all alone, and been like, "Whoa, there is an evil side to nature. There is a dangerous side to nature." But instead, he took that as that is natural. That is how it's supposed to be, and that ties everything together. That he's basically saying our lives from beginning to end should always be 99% nature, and that. You got to stand behind a man, at least behind his stance, when it's that encompassing. So that's pretty much my my video for this week. My basic thoughts: nature is personal. That's what I got from this. And when we read this stuff where people have made it personal, it's a lot easier to understand the meanings and the teachings that they want to get across. So. Thanks for watching. Sorry I went a little long, and hope everybody has a great week.